As you know that in every Sangha we talk about Ritu Charya. Ritu means the season, Charya means the kind of acharan, the kind of behavior, the kind of expectation that comes upon us in the given nature. Right? Yogurt is, for there's certain reason, it is prohibited in spring. But we do not know. We are going to eat yogurt because of all its good things for our digestion, good things. And so science has laid down what is its good things. That is right. But Ayurveda says we are not only what we digest, we are also what we could not digest. We also have to walk around with the undigested process in the system. So we want to eat foods that are seasonally right for us. We want to behave in a certain way that is seasonally right for us. And when I mean right, it's really, you can see that it is a universal truth. It is not an Indian truth, or it is not even a human truth. It is a universal truth that season, the macrocosm, impinges upon us, which is the microcosm, certain expectations. It is talking to us. Are we listening? When the sun starts getting warmer versus the winter, when it starts getting a little hotter, when the days start becoming longer and the nights become shorter, which is sometime around mid-March, then for 2 months, a season called spring or Vasanta Ritu begins. And this season is very unique because it brings about a liquefaction, because of the outer heat, a liquefaction of a substance inside our body which is called kapha. When I call kapha a substance, I'm using it very carefully because I can call it a force, I can call it energy, but I'm going to call it from a state of matter. It is subtle matter inside our body. Many of you do not know what kapha, vata, pitta means. And this is a natural constituent of the body. When this subtle matter called kapha, it within the living body becomes a force and does many things. It does many things such as give us structure, give us lubrication, give us strength, okay? Give us a lot of endurance, and it literally gives us the physicalness of our being. But during the winter, in the cold season, it slowly accumulates in us because matter like increases with like, and kapha as such is made up of 2 even subtler states of matter, units, very subtle units, which is water and earth. And water and earth have a potency which is cooling. And like increases like is our universal principle. And when the coldness of the winter, the previous Ritu Shishir, which we also talked about, it slowly accumulates in our system, and due to the cold, slowly and slowly, the kapha naturally increases in our body. A substance, a wet, earthy, thicker energy state, force, state of subtle matter is increasing in our body. It is very natural for us that when the heat begins in the universe, in this micro universe, a small melting process begins, which is known as kapha darshan, or small amount of phlegm, or it will be a natural release of the system. Pathology begins if we have excessive kapha already in us, and on top of that, in this season, if we eat like increasing like things, what would be some of the kapha increasing things? Cold things, cold water, cold fruits, cold fruit juices, cold ice cream, cooling yogurt, cold milk. These are the things that will increase kapha. So think of our body as a bucket, but if in this bucket, if we are aware that something called kapha, which is a little bit like, which is a mixture of earth and water elements, your body is made up of space, ether, air, fire, water and earth. Water and earth together, they make this dosha, this force, this subtle matter state that does things in the body, and it is called kapha, and it feeds on the food you eat and the drinks you drink. But if you drink cooling things or eat cooling things, it will increase. So in the bucket, it is increasing, right? Similarly, if you expose yourself to cold air, it will increase. Similarly, kapha is the kind of matter which, because of having water and earth, has a lot of density and a lot of stationariness to it. It is quite immobile. It likes to kind of grow in its place. And so therefore, sleeping excessively right now, many of you will find you are feeling like this. Have you felt it? Just by sleeping. Interesting. Look at this human body. You try to exercise it too much, there is a problem. You rest it too much, there is a problem. So this is like a machine, and we are understanding this body. We are also understanding how to maintain it. And in the spring, in this Ritu, Vasanta Ritu, we do not sleep excessively, especially in the daytime. Don't fall asleep right after eating, because the eating will cause heaviness, the sleep will increase the heaviness, and due to this heavy guru stuff happening to the body, the levels are precariously going up. Okay? Then if you eat heavy foods, oily foods, foods that are hard to digest, then further all of that may remain in the body, and because of the liquefaction of this kapha, already our digestive fire is not as vigorous as it would like to be. The vigorous digestive fire, you give it a bucket of water, it can still burn away the water. But if water is too much, fire cannot live. Simple physics. So due to the liquefaction of the kapha, our digestive fire, which is called Agni in Ayurveda, this is not doing as well as in the previous 2 months. Hence, the food you were eating 2 months ago, like a hot cup of milk, may become difficult to digest now, unfortunately. The nice little piece of almond cake you could digest and forget about may become a liability in these 2 months. And in liability, not just at the digestive level, where you're feeling, oh, it is too heavy. Not just that, but after breakdown, anything that is very sweet, anything that is excessively amla or sour, anything that is excessively salty, these 3 things also add to the kapha basket. Sweet, sour, salty, heavy foods, cold foods, cooling foods. These are the foods that we don't want to have too much. So I think many of you are ready to leave now because you've had it. You are thinking, what, we come to these Ayurveda people and they tell us not to eat anything. This is the bulk of the American diet: sweet, sour, salty, oily. So what do we do? Well, for one thing, we don't want to go to any fast food joints in spring. Not a good idea. There is a science to it. But the sweet foods, they are also dominant in water and earth states of matter elements. The sour foods and the salty foods also have a lot of water in them, along with some water and earth in them, along with some fire. So basically, we don't want to keep accumulating water and earth in our system, because then in the bucket it grows, and then when it will accumulate in its own place. Right? So that is the first state of accumulation. It will accumulate in its own state. But then after a while, it will become excited because the bucket can no longer contain it. Our lungs, our stomach actually, can no longer contain the kapha, and it will rise and it will take over our lungs, and it will then become manifested. There are some stages that it goes. Our system will not be able to handle the wetness, the heaviness, the coldness. So do yourself a favor, and what do? What is the opposite of wetness? Is dryness. So what do you prefer right now? You prefer more ruksha or dry food articles. Okay? Secondly, the coldness can be mitigated by hotness. So instead of shita or cool things, you want ushna or warm things. Warm spices, warm temperature of food, warm water. All the warm things will help mitigate the buildup, and you can imagine that the kapha, which was increasing, which is naturally increasing due to the change of the season, will at least be arrested or even brought down with efforted and conscientious food and lifestyle. So wetness with dryness, coldness with hotness, and laziness, sleepiness with exercise. Our granthas recommend even boxing, even lifting, big rocks, which means weightlifting. All of you who wanted to pump muscle, and I was preventing you from doing it in different seasons. This is the season. Exercise, go for it. Go make sure that you're exercising, you're moving, you are taking a walk. Walking is highly recommended during Vasanta Ritu. This is the right time to keep your body mobile because kapha increases with inactivity. But the Chalagun, when you introduce mobility in your system, then it gets counteracted. How wonderful. Now we don't need to really go to any, we don't need to have long calls with our insurance company to figure out how we can get a quicker appointment for our allergies, right? Or for this excessive water or heaviness. We can say, you know what? I was being lazy all along. I'm going to start walking and moving. I'm going to eat more hotter spices. We're going to eat more warming, my hot water. I will boil my water. And to heat it, I can even add some dry ginger powder to it. And then that water, that cup of water with dry ginger powder for $2 from a store, that becomes a medicine. And you can go through the season without excessive phlegm or mucus or even tiredness in the body. Then let us continue further. So immobility counteract with mobility in spring. Sweet, sour, salty counteract with pungent, bitter and astringent taste. Pungent taste, ginger, garlic, raw onions. We have a vegetable today we are talking about which is called methi or fenugreek. And bitter, things like bitter arugula, bitter spinach, dandelion greens. Daikon. Daikon is a pungent, mulak. And we have some bitter foods. So pungent, bitter, spices also. Pungent spices like cumin and ajwain, bishop's weed. These are the things we will use. Bitter spices like turmeric. This we can add to we can even gargle with turmeric. And astringent foods. There are not many astringent foods in the American diet, but they are often as a secondary taste in many of the foods. And that also helps us. So we want these kind of foods more in our diet. And for example, heaviness should be counteracted with lightness. So we definitely don't want heavy meals throughout the day, feeling heavy, feeling like we've pushed ourselves. If we could do that in the last 2 months when our Agni was better, our digestive fire, this time we will pay a heavy price. Ajirna or indigestion and that will then slowly compromise and wetness, phlegm, mucus will increase in our system. So many times when people get mucus in the system, we think it's the pollen. Okay, all right, Mr. Pollen. But why is everybody not getting it? People who have better Agni, people whose kapha in the bucket is at a certain level, they will not potentially get the same condition. Our Shastras, our knowledge, says that certain people with certain doshas, certain constitutions have a certain potential for developing a disease or not. And one of our understanding is that if our kapha dosha is at a certain balanced level, it is at a certain balanced level and it is not at the excited level, which is called prakopavastha. When it is not there, then chances of vyadhi or disease coming down will not be there. So this is the way we work on what is called as spring allergies. We don't work on trying to not go for a walk where the pollens will be there. Rather, we eat certain foods, we exercise in a certain way, we drink hot water in a certain way so that when the pollens come, we are able to withstand them. We are able to, because pollens will then bring about the mucus reaction in the body, right? So we don't want that, and this is how we work.